Hello and welcome to the Daily Report for this Friday afternoon, June 14th, here in South Korea. We are starting our newscast a few minutes early today to bring you live coverage of the official welcoming ceremony in Uzbekistan ahead of President Yoon Suk-yeol's summit with Uzbek President Shavkat Mirziyoyev on this Friday over in Tashkent. Now, while we await that footage, I have our senior correspondent, Oh Seong, who is part of the traveling press corps, standing by live at the Uzbek capital city. Seong, welcome.
Hi, Sonia. It's great to be here.
Right, Seong, let's start there with a few words about the significance and purpose of this particular trip.
Right, so South Korea and Uzbekistan, they already have very close relations as special strategic partners. And with Uzbekistan being home to some 170,000 ethnic Koreans, there's a cultural affinity there as well between the people. And as Uzbekistan also has the largest population in Central Asia, it's an attractive destination for Korean companies, offering a significant market and abundant labor force. In particular, President Yoon is going to seek to establish cooperation on energy infrastructure and core mineral supply chains, which are critical for South Korea's high-tech industries. Uzbekistan's mineral resources include petroleum, natural gas, uranium, copper, zinc, and lead. And during his trip, President Yoon will also aim to support Korean companies in securing energy and infrastructure projects and also make inroads into other key industries as well.
So far, Korea-Uzbekistan relations have made remarkable progress centered on the energy and infrastructure fields. And today, cooperation is expanding to more diverse fields such as supply chains, healthcare, climate change, education and public administration.
Marking 5 years of their special strategic partnership forged in 2019, President Yoon says he hopes to make the bilateral relationship more mutually beneficial and also more focused on future-oriented areas, with collaborations between young Koreans and Uzbek innovators especially, as well as seeing greater cooperation in cutting-edge fields such as AI semiconductors.
Right. Now, Seong, I believe President Yoon landed in Tashkent yesterday. That was Thursday. Do tell us a bit about his agenda yesterday and his broader plans for today.
Sure. So upon arrival in Tashkent, the President and First Lady Kim Gon-hee visited the Independence Monument located in the heart of the capital in what's called the Square of Martyrs, built to commemorate victims of Tsarist and Soviet colonialism during the 20th century. President Yoon then held a discussion with young innovators from South Korea and Uzbekistan at a startup center that was established with support from the South Korean government. Then Yoon and First Lady Kim, they attended a dinner with Korean nationals. Now, as you said, the official schedule is going to begin on Friday morning with the welcoming ceremony. And that's going to be followed, of course, by a summit with the Uzbek president. The two leaders are then going to hold a MOU signing ceremony after their summit talks, as well as a joint press conference to outline the results of their bilateral talks. Now, following all of this, President Yoon is going to deliver a keynote speech at a KOREA-UZBEKISTAN business forum, where he will be, of course, backing South Korean companies' entry into the local market here. The official schedule today is going to conclude with a state banquet hosted by the Uzbek president and his wife. And on the final day of the visit on Saturday, the President and First Lady Kim will visit the historic city of Samarkand, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, before returning to Korea that very afternoon.
I see. All right, Seong, thank you for the latest as of now, and do keep us posted. Right, we are still waiting for live feed of the opening ceremony to welcome President Yoon Suk-yeol ahead of his summit with Uzbek President Shavkat Mirziyoyev on this Friday in Tashkent. Up next, I have our top office correspondent Kim Do-yeon with some background details about this upcoming event. Do-yeon, welcome.
Good to be here.
Right, so while we wait, Do-yeon, do walk us through the formalities of the planned ceremony today.
Well, it's nothing new for us to watch one of these opening or welcoming ceremonies at the top offices around the world. Now, for Uzbekistan, it's going to be at Kuksaroy Presidential Palace, which in English means Blue Palace. From what we saw 5 years ago, because former President Moon Jae-in also was there for a state visit, we saw military review, the two nations' national anthem, and there was a march by the honor guards there, very disciplined and not a sight that you can see often, I would say. They will also be introduced to the delegations that's going to be at the summit. So each president will go and greet the other delegations. one thing that we are told so far is that First Lady Kim Gun-hee won't be there. So usually she attends one of these, but we might not be able to see her this time around. Yeah.
Right, I see. To Uzbekistan, it's the third and final leg of President Yoon's Central Asia tour. Could you tell us a bit more about the country itself?
Right, so as we know, the capital is Tashkent. The primary language will be Uzbekistan and Russian. The population is around 36 million, so a little less than South Korea, but that's the largest population among the Central Asian countries, so that's something to note, and it's 90% Islamic population. Of course, as Soo-young mentioned, it's rich in natural resources, something that South Korea has been trying to gain even more cooperation with.
Right. Doan, it's been over 30 years, I believe, since South Korea and Uzbekistan established diplomatic relations. Let's talk a bit about the history of bilateral ties and its perhaps advancements over the past recent years.
Right. So the first diplomatic establishment was in 1992. That's a year after the fall of USSR. So that was a very quick move by South Korean diplomacy to establish a diplomatic channel. Now, exchange of state visits by two countries has been quite often, and you don't see a state visit from a current president when the predecessor was there for a state visit, right? So the bilateral relations overall has been solid and a lot of cooperation. And to point some of the numbers out, the trade volume between the two countries was it's around 2.5 billion US dollars in 2023. Special strategic partnership was forged in 2019, as Soo-young mentioned. And we have to keep in mind that only 4 countries in the world South Korea has special strategic partnership with, and that's India, Indonesia, and UAE. So all countries with a lot of potential for cooperation. So that's something to also note. And South Korea has also a lot of foreign workers from Uzbekistan, and the numbers are nearly 10,000 currently, and it's been going on for a very long time. So we can see that the two have been cooperating for quite a while now.
Right, and they're hoping to further boost that partnership through this latest summit talk between the two leaders. So in Uzbekistan, it's also home to a remarkable number of ethnic Koreans, better known as Korea Saram. What more can you share about them?
Right. And throughout President Yoon's trip to Central Asia, we've been mentioning about the Korea Saram. It's very important historically for South Korea to note this. There are ethnic Koreans who lived in the former Soviet Union and their descendants that were forced to move to Central Asia. There are around 500,000 Korea Saram worldwide, approximately 300,000 residing just in Central Asia. Uzbekistan has the most, with 170,000, and among the countries that gained independence after the fall of USSR. We share a lot in common, culturally, of course, and a lot of them tend to keep the Korean naming structure, so we have, yeah. Right,
indeed. Now, prior to President Yoon's departure for Central Asia, Doyan, the presidential office here shared plans for the K-Silk Road initiative. What does this initiative include?
That's right. So it's a comprehensive diplomatic strategy towards Central Asia, and we've seen the Yoon administration do this for 2 different regions before. But in terms of K-Silk Road, of course, the name coming from the Silk Road, the role that Central Asia played historically. And its role right now is very important, yet again, because of the global uncertainties with the war in Ukraine. So what they describe this as is a comprehensive diplomatic strategy towards Central Asia. Resources the acronym is done with ROAD, so it's ROAD. They summarize it nicely for us, and R stands for resources cooperation, O stands for ODA, so the money or the support that we give to these developing nations, and a company to grow together, especially with Korea Saram, because there's a lot of ethnic Koreans in Central Asia, and D for drive. During President Yoon's visit to Kazakhstan, Kazakh President Tokayev welcomed this strategy, so it's looking bright.
Right, it really
Yeah,
is.
well received.
Right. Now, for those of you that is joining us as we speak, we are bringing you live coverage of President Yoon Suk-yeol's visit to Uzbekistan. Now, there is a welcoming ceremony today ahead of his summit with Uzbek President Shavkat Mirziyoyev. Right, that was the playing of the national anthems of the two countries, South Korea and Uzbekistan. We are bringing you live feed of the official ceremony to welcome President Yoon Suk-yeol ahead of his summit with Uzbek President Shavkat Mirziyoyev on this Friday in Tashkent. Now, here in the studio, as we bring you this live coverage, I have our top office correspondent Kim Do-yeon to share a few words about the significance of this latest state visit by President Yoon to Uzbekistan. So, Do-yeon, what can you tell us about the significance and also, of course, the purpose of this latest trip to Uzbekistan?
Right. Countries in Central Asia are rich in natural resources, and South Korea wants to expand its cooperation for some of the materials that the nation needs to export the produced goods. Uzbekistan is a very attractive market for South Korea, also being the most populated country in Central Asia. Strong labor force for Korean companies to build plants there, especially the auto sector. And just to note some of the Uzbekistan's mineral resources list, it would be petroleum, natural gas, uranium, copper, zinc, and lead. So President Yoon also aims to support Korean companies in securing energy infrastructure projects, so building plants and infrastructure as roads and bridges, all possibility for South Korean companies who also already have a successful track records in the country.
And they're hoping to further expand that partnership between the two countries, of course. Now, President Yoon is greeting the Uzbek delegation as we speak. Toyon, President Yoon landed in Tashkent, I believe, on Thursday. What was his agenda yesterday?
So upon arrival, first President Yoon and First Lady Kim Gun-hee visited the Independence Monument located in the heart of the capital, what's called the Square of Martyrs, built to commemorate victims of Tsarist and Soviet colonialism during the 20th century. Now, President Yoon then held a discussion with young innovators from South Korea and Uzbekistan at a startup center that was established with support from the Korean government. Now, that was something different from his past two country state visits. So it was notable to see President Yoon speak with young generation. Then the first couple attended a dinner with Korean nationals, so overseas Koreans and some people in Uzbekistan that have emigrated from South Korea. Now, the official schedule for state visit began this morning on Friday with welcoming ceremony that's going on right now. The two are expected to do the usual state visit engagements with MOU ceremony and joint press conference.
Right, indeed. And after greeting the Uzbek delegation, President Yoon is guiding Uzbek President Shavkat Mirziyoyev to the South Korean delegation for greetings as well?
Yes, that's the Deputy Prime Minister for Finance, Choi Sang-mok, right now.
Right, and the greetings are coming as we hope for greater economic cooperation between the two countries, of course. And speaking about that, Tony, we were speaking about this earlier on. The two countries established diplomatic relations, I believe, some more than 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. How have ties developed since then?
That's right. We can't stress this enough, but the two countries are now special strategic partnership, which was forged back in 2019. And as I have said before, it's only one of the 4 countries in the world that South Korea has the diplomatic level of ties with. The first establishment of diplomatic ties exchanges came in 1992, a year after the fall of USSR. Currently, back in 2023, actually, the trade volume hit $2.5 billion US. And Uzbekistan is actually the third largest receiver of South Korea's official development assistance. So the cooperation between the two countries have been very good to be
right, to
broad.
be clear, of course. And Uzbekistan itself, Turn, it's the third and final destination of President Yoon's Central Asia tour. Mm-hmm. Could you tell us a bit about the country, Uzbekistan?
Right. The population is around 35.9 million. That's about 15 million less than South Korea. But as I said, it's the largest population in Central Asia. 90% of that population is to be Islamic in terms of religion. And the country has also the most Koreo saram, as mentioned, among the Central Asian countries. So
right.
Ethnically, South Korea has close ties, and historically, of course, share very similar.
Right, you were saying 170,000 ethnic
That's right.
Koreans living in Uzbekistan. Well, this is the opening ceremony, the official opening welcoming ceremony as well, to welcome President Yoon Suk-yeol to Uzbekistan ahead of his summit talks with Uzbek President, of course. Toin, what's on the agenda, very briefly speaking, for today's summit talks between the two leaders?
The two leaders will go in for a summit now. I believe there will be a photo shoot before the summit, and there will be a summit, and they will sign MOUs, as he does with many countries that he visits, and joint press conference to outline the results of the summit. So what's discussed between the two, we'll know by then in a couple hours.
Right, I see. Well, do keep us posted then. Right, Toyon, thank you for the insights. And that was the opening ceremony to mark President Yoon Suk-yeol's visit to Uzbekistan ahead of his summit with Uzbek President Shavkat Mirziyoyev. Come next week, medical practitioners at hospitals, big and small, are planning to partake in collective action amid the prolonged standoff between the government and doctors in training opposed to medical school quota expansion. Now, against this backdrop, government authorities have vowed to respond firmly to actions that place the lives of patients at risk. Our Moon Hye-ryan has the latest.
South Korea's government has vowed to take a strong stance against no-show medical professionals, as doctors and medical school professors are due to take collective action starting next week. During an emergency briefing on Thursday, the government stated that as medical law stipulates, a medical practitioner cannot refuse to treat patients without a justifiable reason. The planned walkouts would be treated as illegal acts.
Government will prioritize the people's lives and health and maintain emergency medical care while responding firmly against illegal actions.
Members of the Medical Professors Association of Korea, with professors at 40 universities around the country, will take a day off next Tuesday in solidarity with the Korea Medical Association in a move against the government's medical school quota hike. In a separate move, other major university hospitals are scheduling indefinite walkouts, the first being professors at Seoul National University Hospital starting next Monday. They attempted to ease the public's concerns by stating that only scheduled appointments and surgeries would be affected, and emergency treatment and the intensive care unit would be supplemented with additional staff. The Emergency Response Committee for Medical Professors at SNU is due to hold a press conference on Friday afternoon to explain its stance further. On the day of mass walkouts, the government plans to note which medical institutions are participating in collective action and will issue an administrative order to return to work if leaves of absence surpass 30% in each city. With little time left until the day of action, the KMA said it could reconsider if the government changes its stance and requested talks with the KMA as a representative of the medical body. The statement has been met with backlash from other doctors' groups, such as the one for junior doctors, with its head declaring on his personal Facebook page that the KMA does not represent them. Meanwhile, groups representing patients' rights responded to the news with a demand to withdraw collective action plans that threaten the lives and welfare of patients. Moon Hye-ryan, Arirang News.
The Korea Economic Research Institute has raised its growth projection for the local economy this year to 2.4% from an earlier forecast of 2%. Analysts there are linking the improved outlook to strong performance on the export front as semiconductor shipments surge on the back of greater AI demand. On a more cautious note, they believe recovery in domestic demand will depend on the future direction of forex markets. Meanwhile, Seoul's finance ministry says Korea's consumer prices appear to be cooling, and this reality is propping up domestic demand. Our Park Gun-woo covers the latest data.
South Korea's economy is slowly picking up its pace. Data from the latest economic green book from the finance ministry on Friday showed that as inflation slows down and the manufacturing sector sees positive signs, domestic demand is growing. For the month of May, inflation was 2.7% on year. This is down from 2.9% in April. In particular, the prices for agricultural goods have stabilized as supply improved with better weather conditions compared to the year before.
Unlike in the previous month, which had a slight slowdown in inflation with a curved flow, for this month we can say that inflation has indeed slowed down.
Production and construction investment also showed positive signs. Overall industrial production for April saw an increase of 3.1% compared to the year before. It's notable that all three major sectors that make up overall production, which are mining and manufacturing, construction, and services, saw a rise. Construction investment went up with increased building permit areas compared to last year, allowing for more construction orders, yet infrastructure investment fell. Strong exports and an increase in tourists, especially those from China, also pulled up the economy. Exports for May were up by 11.7% on the back of strong IT exports, such as semiconductors, as well as strong auto exports. However, despite an increase in tourists, retail sales saw a slight drop with a decrease in the number of cars sold domestically. The government has placed its priority on stabilizing people's livelihoods by increasing the management of potential risks and focusing on policies to boost the economy. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News.
An annual event offering a broad platform for promising Asian startups is underway here in Seoul, and Korea's content startups are garnering much attention. Our business correspondent Lee was there.
It's an opportunity for local startups to rise and take off into the global market. Here at this year's NextRise, the largest startup fair in Asia, which is being held in Seoul for 2 days starting Thursday, startups have the chance to not only network but also showcase their latest products and services.
Startups are becoming a new growth engine for our economy, so our government is planning to do all that we can to support them.
The annual event, which has taken place since 2019, features more than 500 domestic and global startups this year. And the largest booth at the event was one run by the Korea Creative Content Agency, a government organization affiliated with the Ministry of Culture that oversees the promotion of local content, one of the nation's most promising export sectors. One of the featured startups is this domestic startup that breaks down language barriers by translating content using AI and converting them into audio-dubbed files in English, Chinese, and Japanese.
We help make content from domestic companies such as SM Entertainment reach global fans, and at the same time help content from overseas companies reach the domestic audience.
Another local startup that is using advanced technology to promote various media content is this data analysis business. One of its services provides in-depth marketing insights by analyzing the sensory responses of audience members with an IoT-based headband as they watch a certain scene. Depending on how the viewer responds to the scene, production companies may decide to cut or keep it.
There is also a large demand overseas for services that can analyze the weak and strong points of various media content. And since ours is the first that's able to analyze viewers' biosignals, we expect to see robust global demand.
And in recognition of how important it is for startups to expand abroad so they can, according to industry insiders, expand revenue streams, Japan was selected as the featured guest country at the fair, the first time this type of selection has been made. With the fair putting a greater focus on overseas markets and providing plenty of networking opportunities, local startups will be able to use this as a chance to make their foray into the global market. Lee, Arirang News.
Pet-friendly, it's the new buzzword at travel agencies as well as drinking and dining establishments as many Koreans adopt furry friends into their homes. Our An Sung-jin reports.
More pets, more businesses. As more South Koreans are having pets, more and more businesses are specifically targeting these pet owners to win over new customers. According to research from KB Financial Group, the number of households in South Korea that owned a pet in 2022 was more than 5.5 million. And when it comes to Seoul, 1 in every 10 households in the capital has a pet.
The number of single households increases, and we are entering an aging society, which also increases the likelihood of owning pets.
With the rising number of pets, the hospitality and tourism industries are trying to meet the demands of this increase in pet owners. For example, the Pepemjok in Korean, which literally translates to pet family tribe, has been a slogan driving business decisions. This company specifically works on providing services for pet owners like a temple stay with your dog.
Our service revolves around providing information on places that are pet-friendly. Our users have doubled for the first half of 2024 compared to last year. There are increased opportunities with pets these days, like a beach for dogs.
Data from the Korea Tourism Organization shows that the market value of Korea's pet industry is expected to reach up to $4.4 billion by 2027. This franchise cafe has been approved as a testbed by the Ministry of Trade under a regulatory sandbox framework that allows the cafe to have pets and food-selling areas. Cafes and restaurants like these are helping foster a society where pets are more than just a cat and a dog. They're a lifelong companion. The cafe has a separate pet zone and a dispenser for dog training pads and water bowls and trash bags.
I try to go around with my pet, but sometimes we face restrictions, so the places we can go are limited. It's a huge advantage to come here with my pet and comfortably enjoy our time.
Apart from more businesses opening up to pets, pet owners may also be looking out for more premium and high-quality products for their companions. Han Sung-jin, Arirang News.
In other news, members of the Group of 7 meeting will provide Ukraine with a $50 billion loan using profits from Russia's frozen assets in Europe and in the U.S. And speaking of the U.S., President Joe Biden and his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky have sealed a security deal aimed at strengthening Ukraine's defense strategy. Our Lee Sing-jae has details.
This year's G7 summit, held in Italy, focused on a number of global issues, including the prolonged war in Ukraine. On the sidelines of the summit on Thursday, U.S. President Joe Biden and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky agreed on a 10-year security agreement aimed at strengthening Ukraine's defense against Russia. While the pact does not commit the U.S. to supply troops to defend Ukraine in case of an attack, it does commit Washington to hold high-level consultations with Kyiv within 24 hours if such an attack occurs. The U.S. will also continue to train Ukraine's military, deepen cooperation on defense industry production, and share more intelligence. The agreement also aims to help build Ukraine's long-term deterrence across multiple domains, including air, sea, and cybersecurity. Meanwhile, the G7 leaders also agreed on Thursday to lend Ukraine $50 billion using frozen Russian assets. While the final agreement still needs to be hashed out, most of the money would be lent by the U.S. government using windfall profits from the roughly $300 billion in frozen Russian assets. However, the vast majority of the frozen assets are being held in European Union nations. The U.S. and its allies froze all Russian central bank assets outside of Russia when Moscow invaded Ukraine in 2022. NATO will also aim for an agreement to provide over $42 billion in aid annually to Ukraine. Speaking at a press conference on the first day of the NATO defense ministers' meeting in Brussels on Thursday, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said that the agreement could be signed next month at the NATO summit in Washington. He added that the burden of annual financial support would be shared equally among the Security Alliance members. However, Hungary, which has long opposed military support to Ukraine, withdrew from the plan early on. Lee Sung-jae, Arirang News.
Following confirmation by South Korea's top office of a planned trip to Pyongyang by Russia's Vladimir Putin in the days ahead, pundits here believe the two allies will likely seek to bolster their bilateral military commitments. Our correspondent Kim Jong-sil reports.
Russian President Vladimir Putin's visit to Pyongyang looks to be imminent. Several media are reporting signs of the regime making preparations ahead of the visit by moving airplanes parked near Pyongyang International Airport's main terminal and decorating Kim Il-sung Square. An official at the South Korean presidential office also confirmed the visit, saying it will take place within a few days. The question comes down to why it is happening now.
The objective of Putin's visit to North Korea is to solidify Russia's relationship with North Korea, which has elevated to alliance-like military and economic partnership. Putin and Kim Jong-un met in Russia in last year, so it was expected that Putin would visit back North Korea after the presidential inauguration this year.
With the upcoming visit, experts say the relationship between Moscow and Pyongyang could reach a new level. They say treaties on military and security cooperation could be signed between the two parties aimed at elevating their strategic relations. The last time Putin visited Pyongyang was in July 2000. He met North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's father Kim Jong-il and ratified a joint declaration reaffirming their close bilateral relationship. But experts say things have changed significantly in the last 2 decades.
The biggest difference compared to 2000 is the war in Ukraine broke out, where there's a much higher level of military and security cooperation between North Korea and Russia. For Russia, strategic cooperation with North Korea has become very important, and for North Korea pursuing a higher level relationship including military and security cooperation compared to previous economic and scientific technological cooperation with Russia has become its absolute national interest.
He added it's important for the South Korean government to continue sending messages that there mustn't be any military cooperation that violates UN Security Council resolutions.
김정실, 아리랑 뉴스.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. Former U.S. President Donald Trump returned to Capitol Hill on Thursday for the first time since the January 6th riot of 2021. Trump gathered the full House of Republican lawmakers, where he delivered freewheeling remarks.
As you know, with the full House, Republican House today, and we had a tremendous meeting with them also, and there's great unity, and there's one thing in common: we want to make America great again. We want to make our country great again. We're a nation that's in decline. We're a declining nation. We're a nation that is being laughed at all over the world. We have a leader that's being laughed at all over the world.
Trump spent about an hour delivering remarks on topics including Russia, immigration and abortion, as well as stressing unity among Republicans and promising to work out differences within the party. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, a known critic of Donald Trump, called the visit really positive, adding that he got a lot of standing ovations. Former Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, on the other hand, released a statement saying that Trump was returning to the scene of the crime. Tesla shareholders on Thursday reapproved the pay package worth around $50 billion for the company's CEO Elon Musk, a compensation package previously thrown out by a Delaware judge earlier this year. Shareholders voted on two measures: Musk's pay package from 2018, which allows him to buy 303 million Tesla shares at a hugely reduced price, and the transfer of the electronic car company's incorporation state from Delaware to Texas. Tesla did not disclose the exact vote results, but Elon Musk posted on his social media X overnight that he had the support needed to pass the measures. The Tesla CEO won't receive the all-stock compensation package immediately. The pay package will likely remain tied up in the Delaware court for an extended period of time as Tesla appeals the court's rejection. U.S. transgender swimmer Leah Thomas lost an appeal against World Aquatics at the Court of Arbitration for Sport on Wednesday, challenging its policy barring transgender athletes from women's competition. 25-year-old Thomas became the first transgender NCAA champion in Division I history, but was later barred from elite-level competition because of a World Aquatics policy that says only transgender athletes who complete transition before the age of 12 are allowed to compete. Thomas will now be ineligible for women's trials for this summer's Paris Olympics. Over 1.5 million Muslim pilgrims have made the journey to Saudi Arabia's holy city of Mecca, as Friday, the 14th of June, marks the start of this year's Hajj. One of the world's largest annual religious gatherings, the Hajj is seen as the most significant manifestation of Islamic faith and unity, and must be performed at least once in a lifetime by all Muslims with the means to do so. The official Saudi press agency reported that as of late Monday, some 1.5 million pilgrims arrived in Saudi Arabia from abroad for the 5-day religious ritual. The Gulf Kingdom's Minister of Religious Pilgrimages stressed that no political activity will be tolerated and that the focus must be on the prayers. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. The sweltering heat wave continues today with record-breaking warmth in store for the capital area. And it seems people are more exhausted and stressed from the heat nowadays, knowing it's only mid-June and it will only get hotter through August. So it's vital to be aware of the signs and symptoms with heat-related issues. Drink more water than caffeinated drinks and stay in an air-conditioned area during the hottest parts of the day. And this afternoon, Seoul and Chuncheon will go up to 33 degrees Celsius. Daejeon, Daegu, Gyeongju will see a high of 34 degrees with very high UV rays nationwide, with a chance of passing rain in southern inland regions. Speaking of rain, the capital and Gangwon-do province in Jeju could see 5 to 20 millimeters of showers tomorrow, while southern parts of Korea could see passing rain. And that rain will bring much needed heat relief to the upper regions, but not so much to the southern provinces. Then temperatures continue to stay above norms next week. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
And those are the headlines at this hour here in Korea. Thank you for watching.